All right, everybody. So for today's little Illustrator tutorial, I'm going to go over a couple things. First is going to be grouping and ungrouping shapes. Next is going to be transforming those shapes. We're going to talk about rotation and reflection today. And then finally, arranging shapes, sort of like layers in Photoshop, but it's a little bit different. So we'll kind of discuss that. So let's start off by talking about what we're going to actually create. Because we are doing a holiday project, holiday card, I'm going to create sort of like a night scene on this artboard. So what I did was I created a 4-inch wide by 5-inch tall artboard, just like you're supposed to do. And I'm going to go over to my shape tools, and I already have them kind of torn off just like this. So I'm going to start by creating the ground. I'm going to use my pen tool. I'm going to click in the bottom corner, go over to this corner. I'm going to go up. I'm going to kind of turn this down, up, and something just to kind of give me a bit of a wavy ground. And I'm going to make this like a dark green. So I'm just going to use my swatches, pick darker green. That's perfect. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to create some trees because I'm going to put some trees down here and I'm going to put some stars up in the sky. So to create the trees, I'm going to go to my polygon tool. I'm going to click and I'm going to change my sides to 3. Once I hit OK, I get that triangle. Awesome. So I'm going to make this a little bit of a brighter green. Next, I'm going to hold down Option and I'm going to duplicate this, move it straight down, make it a little bit bigger, and move it into the middle. I'm going to duplicate this by moving it straight down, making it a little bigger, and I'm making sure to hold shift when I make them bigger because I want to keep the triangles equilateral, meaning all 3 sides are the same, just because that's the style that I want to go for. If I wanted to, I could kind of squish some of them a little bit. That's fine too, but I'm going to stick with this for now. Next, I'm going to select all 3 of them by drawing a box. And then using my shape builder tool, which we know all about, I'm going to connect them all together just by kind of drawing a little squiggly. Cool. So now I have the top of my pine tree. Next, I want to create a trunk. So I'm going to go to my rectangle tool. I'm going to create a little rectangle. And let's do a square. Why not? And I'm going to make this brown. Okay. This is pretty much right in the middle, but if it wasn't, I can always use my arrow keys on my mouse to kind of adjust it wherever it's got to go. So, first thing, I know that this top of this tree is always going to be with the trunk. So to select both of them, because it's 2 different shapes, I can click, hold down shift, and click, or I could also create a box. Instead of having to do that every single time, what I can do is I can select both of them, I can right click, and I can hit group. And what this does is it groups the 2 shapes together. So if you click on one, they're both selected. Very, very easy. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, move this into position. I'm going to hold down Option, move this here, make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to hold down Option again, move this up here, and make this even smaller. So what happens in a composition is whatever is closest to the bottom of the frame appears closest to the viewer. Whatever's higher up appears farther away. Also, whatever is larger appears larger, closer, sorry, than whatever is smaller. So right now, my perspective is all messed up with having these 3 trees kind of all over the place. So what I can do is I can right click this tree, select it, right click it, arrange, and I can send backwards. So what happened was now this tree, Command Z just so you can see it again. So this tree is now in front of this one. I can right click, make sure to select it first, arrange, send backwards, and it goes behind, right click, arrange, send backwards, and now it goes behind that one. Perfect. this tree is still in the way. So I can send this one backwards just like I did that, or I can select the largest tree, right click, arrange, and bring forward. And what it does is it brings it in front of this tree. So it's blocking whatever's behind. Perfect. This is starting to look pretty good. So I'm going to select all three of them by holding down Shift. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit group. Now, if I select one part of one tree, all three of these trees are going to be selected. I'm going to hold down the option. I'm going to duplicate them and zoom a little too far out on that one. And this looks okay, but I kind of want to get a little bit of symmetry here. I want it to sort of be the same on both sides. So if I right click this after it's selected, I can go to arrange, nope, sorry, transform. And I have a couple different transformation options. So I have move, which just gives me the ability to move it. And if you have this little preview checked, you can see pick how far you move it horizontally, which is side to side, vertically, which is up and down, and also the distance in which it moves. So if I change this to 1.0, it doesn't move it that much. If I change it to 7.0, it moves it off the screen. I don't really need this to move it, to be honest with you. Rarely ever use that. I'll just use the mouse to move it. I can also right click it, transform, and I can rotate it. So once again, I'm going to keep this preview checked. That way I see what it looks like. And I can move these trees 90 degrees and they go sideways. I can go about 180 degrees. They go completely upside down. 270 that way, and I can move them all the way back. I don't really want to rotate this. Once again, another way to do that is just going by this. What this transform does is it gives you a little bit more control. But what I do want to do is I want to reflect. So move moves, rotate rotates, reflect is going to flip it in either a vertical direction, meaning it flips from one side to the other, or a horizontal direction, meaning it flips that way. You can also change the angle as well. But I'm just going to go for a vertical flip. That way, when I hit OK, my big tree is on the outside, medium tree is on the inside, and the small tree is in the middle. Now, even though I want some symmetry, I feel like this is too perfect. In nature, things normally aren't perfectly symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to ungroup these trees. That way I can select each one individually. Now I'm going to move this over here. And it's okay if it goes off the artboard because it's going to get cut off when we export it anyway. Maybe make this a little bit bigger. That's nice. Maybe make this even smaller. I'm going to use my arrow keys to drop it down. Cool. And then maybe I'll bring this here and let's call it a day. Awesome. So 6 trees. I have sort of a nice symmetry here. Not perfect, but nature isn't perfect, so that's exactly the way it should be. Now I'm going to add some stars into the sky. So grab my star tool, create a star, and I'm going to change the fill color to a nice yellow. I'm going to create another star that's a little bit smaller. And create another star that is kind of in between them. Maybe make it a little bit smaller and put it down here. So I like this little triangle thing that I have going on here. I'm going to keep that. And I also want to group these together. So I'm going to select them and I can right click and hit group. If I want to use the key command, I can hit Command G and that will automatically group these together. Now I can move this over here and I can copy and paste and I can rotate and I can copy and paste and I can right click, transform and reflect. I can copy and paste, right click, transform and reflect, and I'll do it the opposite way. And I can fill up the sky with a couple different stars. Okay. Now I'm going to select all of these, right click, and group them together. That way, if I want to select the stars to move them or rotate it, all I have to do is click more. Finally, I'm going to add the sky. So I'm going to go to my rectangle tool. I'm going to change my color to a really dark blue, and I'm going to create a rectangle where the sky should be. And when I let go, boom, everything's covered. Just like with the trees, I can right click, arrange, send backwards. But now, because we have so many different things, we have 6 trees, the ground, and the stars, and I know that the sky is going to be all the way in the back and everything else will be in front of it, I can right click, arrange, send to back. And this sends it behind everything. And reverse, right click, arrange, bring to front, and it brings it in front of everything. Another way to do this, if you're into key commands, which I am 100% into key commands because it speeds up your workflow amazingly, if you hold down the command button, you can hit the brackets, and one bracket will send it back, one bracket will bring it forward, and these brackets are located right by your P key. I'll send it to the back, and beautiful. Now, this is a pretty good start to my holiday card.